We will call the Wednesday, March 27th meeting to order now. At this time, please join us. Councilman Westbrook, you're doing the invocation?
I am. Thank you.
Great.
Pray with me, please. Almighty God, our Heavenly Father, send down upon us, those of us who hold office in this beautiful city of Tyler, Texas, the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice, that with steadfast purpose we may faithfully serve in our offices to promote the well-being of all people. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of minutes for both January 23rd meeting and the February 13th meeting.
Second.
A motion by Warren, a second by Sellers. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. At this time, we will come down for service awards. We have two firemen that we are going to give their 20-year pin and another a 35-year pin today. And the first is Sean Wilson, fire captain, 20 years. Yeah, I know. Thank you. And then Dwayne Parrish, Fire Captain 4 for 35 years of service. Congratulations and thank you. Come get a picture. And then we'll get both of y'all in a picture as well. I'm going to stand up. Another picture, wait. Come on, Dan. Okay, y'all get in there and do a picture. We'll get behind it. Great. Thank you all very much. Appreciate your service.
Okay, this is a request that the City Council consider recognizing a city employee as the Blueprint Blue Ribbon Award winner for placing the highest premium on responsiveness to citizens' needs. The Blueprint Blue Ribbon program was started on April 1st, 2004 to recognize exceptional employee performance. This employee has served in different roles during their almost 4 years of employment. With each new role came a progressive increase in responsibilities and supervisory functions. This employee is currently participating in this year's City University's Leadership Academy and has consistently demonstrated the call to serve spirit through coordination within the community and city departments. This employee's recent work during the implementation of a new building permit software program exemplifies the core values of the Blueprint. The implementation of software is typically challenging. However, this process was exceptionally complex because it directly impacted the staff as well as the development community. To minimize the disruption to customers Gail worked tirelessly to troubleshoot and resolve issues. Gail's sense of urgency and concierge service approach has helped redefine customer care and experiences within the Permit Center. Gail has built a great team in the Permit Center, and the Permit Center, please stand up, wave at Gail. They do a fabulous job. For her customer focus and approach aimed at performance excellence, which exemplifies the core values of the Blueprint, it is recommended that the City Council recognize Gail Yiser-Wunsch as the March recipient of the Blueprint Blue Ribbon Award.
I didn't know who it was this year, so I just looked at the name. Far back as I could, so I could sit on the front row. I figured I'd give it away if I looked right. Oh, yeah, good, big picture.
And Gail's family is here to congratulate her as well.
Look at Denny. Congratulations.
Good morning, Heather.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. This is a request that Council conduct a public hearing to consider creation of Homeland Title Reinvestment Zone Number 13, adopt ordinance creating the reinvestment zone, and consider approval of a request for tax abatement and authorize the city manager to sign all documents necessary to implement the tax abatement agreement. Homeland Title was established in Tyler in 2008 in a small office on Rice Road. In 2011, Homeland expanded operations in Houston to open 5 offices, with 2 more scheduled to open this year. The company currently has 37 employees at 4 other Texas locations, with 35 located here in Tyler. They plan to construct a 20,000 square foot headquarters office building to be located at the corner of Old Jacksonville Highway and Rice Road, as you can see here, the conceptual site plan. The company is also considering a Sugar Land location for this project. They are expected to invest $5 million for this headquarters, and this would create 24 jobs over 4 years and retain 20 current jobs. The majority of Homeland's business is located in the Houston market, but the company began here in Tyler and would like to stay here, keep its headquarters here in the Tyler market. You can see here on the slide the distribution of the recommended 4-year abatement for the $5 million project, which would retain jobs and create 24 new jobs. And with that, we recommend approval and, of course, the hearing.
At this time, Steve, I need to take this into a public hearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we are now adjourned from the city council meeting, and we are in a public hearing for just comments from the public on this item. Seeing no one come forward, we'll close out the public hearing section of this, and then any other action to be taken at this time?
And then, of course, the remaining actions are to adopt the ordinance creating the reinvestment zone, and then to approve the tax abatement agreement.
Okay, so at this time, we will have any sort of discussion on the item and/or a motion to approve. Motion by Broderick, a second
Second.
by Westbrook. Is there any other discussion on this item? Any questions?
I just want to make a comment. I realize that you guys have an option of staying here or moving to Sugar Land. And personally, I just want to thank you for choosing Tyler. I think you've made a good choice.
Great, thank you very much. Any other comments? I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. That covered both of the items, right? That motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Sweet.
great. Thank you very much. And Randy, you had a card to speak if there were any questions. Good, thank you for choosing Tyler, of course. Thank you. And y'all are welcome to stay for the whole meeting if you'd like.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. You have item P1 before you. It's request that City Council consider hearing a presentation and approving the comprehensive annual financial report for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2018. And I have Kevin Cash in here today, who is a partner with Gala Morgan and Patty. They're the external audit firm that conducts our audit. And he's going to go through a little short presentation just to kind of touch on some of the highlights from the audit.
Thank you, Kedrick. Mayor, Council, thank you very much today. With me today is Casey Harlinski. She's one of our audit supervisors that kind of ran things for your audit this past year, oversaw the work related to the field work, the financials, and especially the compliance work that we do as well. Thanks to Kedrick. I know his staff's in the back. Appreciate all of them and all their hard work in helping us. We did have a very detailed meeting last week with your audit committee. Went through the report in great detail. I appreciate their time, their commitment, and just want to hit on some highlights. First and foremost, you see all the awards and recognition. The previous year was your 32nd consecutive award for your CAFR, for your GFOA report. And then you see the other two related to your distinguished budget presentation, which you've received now for 12 consecutive years. And then, of course, your investment policy certificate of distinction that you've now received for 8 consecutive years. Going on to some of the highlights related to the report, it was an unmodified opinion. That is the clean audit opinion. That's the highest opinion we can render for the financial statements of the city. We had an excellent year as we kind of get into the numbers here in a minute. As far as the financial reporting, there was no internal control matters, no reportable matters related to the compliance with your single audit, and the compliance with your grant funding. There was an unmodified opinion as well with that. Some of the highlights, your net position total at the end of the year was $464.1 million. You had a total increase in net position of $2.3 million for the year, and that is taking into account some other things which we'll look at here in a minute. Your total revenues for your general fund exceeded your budget by $2.2 million, the majority of that related to the great year we have with the sales tax, licenses, and permits. Total expenditures were under budget, $2.3 million, so if you size those two up, you had that's a very favorable variance in relation to the budget you adopted for fiscal year 18. And again, that is done with no general obligation debt to the residents of the city. The next thing shows a chart and a graph there as far as the components of your net position. Of course, the largest component is the amount that's invested in capital assets. As you can see there, there's quite a bit of capital assets that you have within the city. A couple of new things that we added this year on the next two slides. You did implement GASB Statement 75 in fiscal year 18, so that did have an impact on your net position. You can see that there was this is basically showing you the liability that you had to incur in reflecting your financial statements. You do have two types of plans for OPEB, which is your other post-employment benefits. There's a health plan and then a supplemental death plan. You can see there between the two, the government-wide presentation And then the business type side, of course, was with your water, sewer, sanitation, your airport. You can see that due to implementing GASB 75, there was a prior period adjustment recorded to show that liability. And then you can see there was a small decrease during the year in order to get you to the balance at 9/30/18. And again, you can see that's a fairly sizable liability. And if those of you who've been around a little while, you'll remember when we implemented GASB 68 a few years back. That brings me to the next slide. This is one of the things we presented to the audit committee at the request of your finance department. Just kind of show you where you've come since you implemented GASB 68. This goes back to the original year of adoption, and it shows you the prior period adjustment that impacted your financials that year. And then it goes through and shows you the increase, decrease in your liability in order to get to the balance that's recorded in your financial statements at 9/30/18. And you can see there, on the TMRS side, we had a little over $37.3 million liability. Your fireman's pension was a little over $21 million. And then the portion of the TMRS side that pertains to your business type funds was a little over $10 million. But again, you can kind of see the progression of how that has changed since you had to implement that. Again, last thing, we can't do this without the help of everyone involved with your finance committee and your audit committee. I appreciate those members that are listed there in front of you. And we do thank you so much. We honor the relationship we have with the city of Tyler, and we appreciate everything you do for us. So I'll entertain any questions that you might have, or if any of the audit committee wants to add to anything from our meeting last week, or Ed, please feel free.
No, I think you covered everything very well, and I'm just, it's been another good, very detailed year that we've had with the firm, and we appreciate all your commitment and all the work that our staff has done as well. It's a very detailed process. It's not just coming out one day and talking for 10 to 15 minutes. I mean, there are many, many, many hours of work involved in this process, and we're very pleased with the report and very happy that we had no issues at all this year. So that was great. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments or questions?
Great job.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good morning, Michael.
Mayor,
Yes.
there is an action that is requested on this item as well as far as.
Oh, there
approval
is
of
a
the CAFR
request.
request, so.
Okay. So I will entertain a motion to approve the audit report.
Make a motion to approve audit.
Second.
Motion by Moore, second by Sellers. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Great. Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning.
Morning. The next item we have for you today is a presentation on the Active Tyler Plan. This is also known as the Regional Hike and Pedestrian Bicycle Master Plan. So this is a plan that also looks at the entire metropolitan planning organization boundary, which is the better part of Smith County. Just so you know, it's looking more than just the city of Tyler, but also looking at Lindale, White House, Bullard, and makes recommendations for improvements for the cities that they can do to improve their networks, and also to create a network to connect all of these towns to each other, which is the vision for the entire plan. Most people will, look at what is active transportation. Again, this is really focusing on looking at pedestrian and bicycle uses as a transportation mode, more than just thinking about it as a recreational activity. Some of the benefits that really come down from having a robust network as this is, first of all, is the connectivity. Being able to get from one place to another without being forced to take a vehicle reduces your parking. It allows for people to move from one place to the other. You have connectivity between hopefully multiple modes of transportation. The Tyler Transit bus line has the ability to carry bicycles on the front of each one of those. So there's definitely a way of looking at this to connect multiple modes. Tourism is another thing that's looked at. The Azalea Trails is a very popular thing that happens every year. Not just looking at that, but going forward, the state through TxDOT has created a bicycle advisory committee to try to create a future network for tourism trails that would go all throughout the state. So one of the goals of this plan was to try to create a plan that would connect into that network and again, try to hopefully continue to facilitate additional tourism coming into the Tyler area. Health, another great benefit of getting people actively moving around, will help reduce obesity ratings. That is one of the leading causes of cardiovascular problems and diabetes. And just the general quality of life is having everybody having the opportunity to get to parks, to schools, and other things like that without, again, being reliant upon a vehicle to get you there. One of the things that we've heard a whole lot is people enjoy the bicycle facilities that are out at Lindsay Park, but have recognized that the only way you can typically get there is to take a vehicle, put your bike on a vehicle, take it there, and then you can bike once you get there. You can't get there through a bicycle itself. So in development of this plan, we have looked at the previous steps that have been taken over the years. We had a regional trail plan that was done in 2009. We had bike routes that were last looked at in the master street plan, and then we had a sidewalk analysis done in 2017. So it was looking at what the plans had been done before and looking at the current infrastructure that we had as taking that as the basis for what we would be looking at as making recommendations. There was also considerations made for current projects that are being done, Legacy Trails and the Tyler Bike Stripe program that is hopefully going to be getting kicked off in the next year. So this was the starting point that we used to give over to our consultants. And for that, we hired a national firm, which is Tool Design Group, with the support of Asakura Robinson. And we have them here to continue and give a presentation for that. And at this point, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Jared Draper with Tool Design Group, who is our project manager.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Morning.
Good to see you. The weather's great here, so I appreciate being here. As Michael said, we have spent almost a year. We kind of kicked this thing off in April of last year, and because this is a regional plan, we talked to people across the entire MPO area. But what I want to do this morning is really highlight kind of the process as well as what are the recommendations for Tyler specific. So as far as the outline of the plan, again, we'll walk through this in detail as I kind of go through. Looking at the introduction, I can't stress enough, the fact that this is a regional plan, it touches a lot of different areas of Smith County that are very unique. And so we wanted to make sure that the recommendations within it address needs in multiple communities that have a variety of different contexts. And so that was really important from the beginning. Michael did already touch on this a little bit, but some of the investment that we believe and we've seen through research that comes through active transportation, economic vitality, looking at safer places. We know that crash data is showing us that bike and pedestrian crash rates are on the rise in a variety of different places. Promoting equity, making sure that the people that need infrastructure to get around is in the right places that makes it suitable for them and appropriate. And then mobility options. Michael also mentioned this, is that having the opportunity to get from point A to point B, however you choose, and whether that's by car, by transit, by bike, or on foot, we want to make sure that there are a variety of options for people within your community and within the region. And so that was very important to us. Some of the goals that we had for this plan were to encourage active transportation. Again, not just recreation. We think that's a side effect of having good infrastructure, but we want to encourage the transportation side of that. Educate the public on what the opportunities are. Creating a network vision. Again, this is not something that happens overnight, but a long-term vision. Identifying a path to success, and then ultimately creating a resource for implementation. We know from plans that we've done across the nation that as soon as this plan is adopted, there might be another opportunity that happens in this community that's not specifically in this plan. But we want to make sure that there are resources available within this document that you could use moving forward no matter what that project is. So some of the public and stakeholder outreach, again, we looked at the approach of we don't want just people to come to us, we also want to go to them. So we had kind of a multifaceted approach. Looking at partnering workshops, we talked to key stakeholders. We had pop-up events across the communities where we actually went and hosted or joined something that was already going on, whether that was a group bike ride, a neighborhood run. We had open house meetings right here in downtown Tyler, and then online engagement for those that could not maybe attend one of those meetings. Here are just some of the photos from that, and again, just from a time standpoint, I want to make sure that we're showing you kind of all of those different pieces. I will say one of the highlights of this was that we got to be at both Tyler Junior College as well as UT Tyler and talk to students specifically as kind of a pop-up meeting, and hearing some of their input of where they would like to get to, be able to walk and bike, I think really made this plan special. As far as the development, we took the public input, but there was a lot of technical analyses that we looked at as well. Demand of looking at concentration of destinations, employment, where are people wanting to maybe go today, or where they would likely go if there was the appropriate infrastructure. Level of comfort, we understand that speed, traffic volume impacts the way someone feels. And so we want to make sure that we looked at your entire street network and what are the appropriate places and what the appropriate facility type on those streets if we're going to make that recommendation. Pedestrian zones, this comes down to, walkability. How close are intersections? Does it make sense to walk from A to B, or do you need a different mode? And then equity, looking at kind of key criteria with low-income housing, access to a vehicle, as well as those transit users. How does that play into the network? And all of these were layers in the network that we developed. Again, this project was for the entire region, but looking at Tyler specifically, this is kind of the northern part of the city, there were a number of recommendations. And so we broke those recommendations into local and regional. As you can see, here's the north, and then to the south, you can see a number of those recommendations. We also know that you have a bike stripe program going on, and so we didn't want this to be something that just overlapped. We wanted to build upon something that you're already doing. And so we took the alignments that were kind of a work in progress, and it's not necessarily a overlap, it's building on that network. So our recommendations, the 83 total projects, 67 local, 16 regional, consider that bike stripe alignment. And so that once the bike stripe is done, if you were to move into the next phase and start to implement this, the network and recommendations that are here, you would have even a more robust network across your entire city. And then finally, implementation. What we wanted to do is we said there are things that we can see today. As you can see, this is Gentry, and what is today, and then what could be. Looking at opportunities. And so we knew that there's a phrase I say often is that not every street needs a bike lane, but some streets need much more than just a bike lane. And so what we wanted to do is consider context, street typology. One of the things we reviewed was the master street plan, and it breaks streets into a number of different typologies, and then the appropriate facility types. And we wanted to give flexibility because we know when it comes down to the dollars and cents of putting something on the ground, sometimes something that we would prescribe in a plan like this, when it comes down to, hey, it's time to build it, things need to shift a little bit. And so we wanted to offer some flexibility. So we kind of created a menu of recommendations, looking at context, looking at street typologies, and then giving options for both bike and pedestrian infrastructure that could support active transportation. Again, this chart here takes into consideration that flexibility, but also give you some consistency, where streets across your region, across your city, will have similar types of infrastructure that are really going to be targeting at attracting new users and making sure it's the appropriate type of design. We think that this, long term, short term it may be a little bit difficult to wrap your mind around, but long term becomes a lot easier to implement. And then finally, the appendices of this document, we wanted to break things down very specifically. Because this is a regional document, we wanted to break those project lists by jurisdiction so that they know what they're responsible for, and then some that cross jurisdictions. We gave design guidance, and then we broke our probable cost of each type of facility into both an urban and a rural section, understanding that developing something in an urban kind of context is much different, and the cost is much different than in the rural context. And so, again, those are kind of planning design costs that if we're starting to estimate how to get something done, this would be a great place to start. And so just a few photos of the things and type of infrastructure that we were recommending throughout this plan. And with that, I am happy to take any questions. I know that was a lot really quickly, but thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. And I do have questions about Bike Stripe. So you worked with UT Tyler?
We did, Dr. Suleiman, absolutely.
Okay, good. So you were able to get their input. And that project, when do we expect that to be finished? Do we know?
I was about to say, if this, Lisa Crossman's been working on that project for half cent. And I
Right.
remember one of the most recent reports was that was still being worked on by
Worked on
the
with-
students
by
as far as the
students.
engineering
That-
component of it.
I think that'll be great, and we have a commitment from TxDOT to help us out on that, so that will be good project for the community. And I'm glad you put it in there. So was the plan just for how it tied into the transportation system, or was it also tied into the trail report that we had on the potential of using some railways maybe to come back towards
Absolutely.
the Rose Garden area?
Absolutely, yeah. We looked at those regional connections as kind of opportunities for longer term railway connections, larger streets that we see may need some more capital improvements long term. That if we put that regional connection on there, if you're doing a larger project, this would be an opportunity to add that bicycle infrastructure as part of that.
Yeah, very good. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got one
Give
here.
me an idea of the bike population that you're talking about.
The bike population?
Yes.
Unfortunately, we don't have a good number on as far as the counts go. One of the things that we always encourage is that when you're starting to do something such as the bike stripe, to start to tell your story appropriately and really celebrate some of the success. And so having some counts before you start to implement the bike stripe would be really great to go ahead and get done, because once you implement that bike stripe, you can start to see the growth and some of the successes. And so although we don't have those numbers today, that is something that we would absolutely encourage, because I think that tells a really successful story over time as you change things.
How many public hearings did y'all have?
We had 2 open house meetings, we had 4 pop-up meetings, and then we had 3 different partnering workshops, and then our online engagement was open for a little over 2 months, and we had hundreds of people respond to that, and close to 600 survey responses.
In fact, one of the pictures you saw was of a bunch of bicyclists, and what they did with a lot of their public hearings was, rather than just have them at a location and expect people to come to them, they then went to those locations. And so those bicyclists you saw in there where they went to the different bicyclist groups in order to kind of get their feedback, to get their input. So we're not designing systems that no one will use. Instead, we go to the people who are wanting to see those systems and say, where will you go? How can we best try to make those type of connections? And to go back to something the mayor was asking about just a minute ago, to make a connection there, one of the things that the Texas Department of Transportation has is 2 different grants that are coming out for kind of towards the end of this year and into early next year, but applications will be due probably about June, July-ish. And with that, those are trail-related, kind of pedestrian-related type of activities that they're looking for. And so this ties, what programs will come out of this will tie to those grant applications that we will make.
And you know, we made a large commitment to the Legacy Trails, and that was in conjunction with TxDOT and federal funds. And that's something that we'll be looking at again in that report, and just the continuation of Legacy Trails back towards the north, towards the Rose Garden area is something that I think would be very beneficial for the entire community. And it doesn't, that also leads, as we know, towards downtown as well. And so the connectivity for the entire community, I think, is very important. So these things, we do find trails to be highly successful. And I think the old model that we had, just a small sidewalk, you know, the conflict between now the bicycles and the pedestrians has been something that's really shown through. So these larger, wider plans are much more suitable to
Absolutely.
take care of everybody's needs. So, anyway, any other comments?
One comment. As a community,
Oh,
how do we
I do have a card.
get people to create a friendlier atmosphere between the bicyclist and the driver?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that some of that is just, it's a culture shift. And so we believe that there's a lot of ways that you can use design and actual facilities to start to change that. I think your question about having a bicycle counts and understanding who's out there now actually goes toward that. A lot of places that we see try to remove people on bicycles all the way from the streets, they just want to keep them on trails. That doesn't change culture. The more people that you start to see on bicycles, you can start to have those changes. And so we would encourage things like educational campaigns, again, in conjunction with you actually working on projects, pilot projects, doing short-term kind of demonstrations of what streets could look like if you started to share them appropriately. Really start to, we've seen across the country and internationally, that's really how people are changing the mindset of how those different modes, transportation modes, work together. The day that you change a street that has 4 lanes to 3 lanes and all of a sudden it has, even if it was just with some paint and some tape, there's bike lanes out there and you have an event out there that Saturday afternoon, all of a sudden it seems like a place that everybody wants to go, whether you're on bike or on foot or in a car. And that is a great way to mix those modes and start to bring around some of the culture change.
And I do have one card on this for a comment, and I'm very sorry I do not know the last name. It's Carlos. Would you please come up? And please state your last name so I can say it appropriately, sir. I apologize.
Morning, Mayor and City Council. It's Liquizamo. A lot of people butcher my last name, so.
Well, good. Instead of butchering it, I'd just like to admit I don't know.
It's Spaniard. My last name is Spain. My great-grandfather was from Spain, so.
Oh, good.
It's just kinda,
And we normally have 3 minutes, but also state your address as well.
I live in Councilman Warren's 2301 Glenview, right along Old Omen, and next to Rose Heights, between Rose Heights and UT Tyler.
Okay, great.
This is, or if you wanted to start the timer, or, okay.
Yeah, it just, they started.
So
I'm not
basically,
sure.
my comment is, this is something that it kind of excites me because I've traveled all over the country for work, and Portland, Oregon is actually kind of leading a beacon of light in this country when it comes to riding bikes. Certain parts of Los Angeles, Orlando, if you go to Austin, people ride their bikes down on Congress and whatnot, but I ride my bike literally every day. And I got back to Tyler in January and I was like 230 almost. I'm 206 now, just from riding the bike, riding the bus, getting to and from where I need to get on the city. What I have noticed is that, as the gentleman stated, getting a culture, I try to tell people that don't have a car, that you can use the bus to get to and from work and ride the bike, and they kind of look at me like, why would I do that? Well, I mean, you want to get healthier. If you can get to and from point A to point B, you can ride the bus and ride your bike, but a lot of people just kind of look at me like I'm, like, I don't know, it's just one of those things, but awareness. I've ridden my bike literally from right there on Old Omen all the way to Lindsay Park, and I got there no problem. Riding up and down Broadway, it's kind of freeing that I can just park my car and I can save money on gas. I'm losing weight. I'm getting more in shape. And I've gotten a lot of comments from my friends on social media. I'm like, man, I've seen you ride your bike. I'm like, yeah, you should try it one day. But a lot of people that don't have transportation, I think this would be one of those things that gives a culture shift, that if they live within less of a mile from work, and maybe it literally shifts the whole paradigm to a whole new way of thinking, that because when you exercise, it literally fires your neurons a little bit faster, and then it each one teach one type of thing, that you see more people start doing this, and you get kids from senior citizens, everyone in between, maybe going to work maybe in the years to come. But it's just one of those things that, for me, is exciting. I see this, maybe I could ride my bike to Lindale. I mean, that more, or maybe in the future we have the Fresh 15K or the race, maybe have a bike race implemented, something like a miniature Tour de France here in Smith County, the road, something, something implemented with the culture of Tyler. But that was pretty much it. I mean, this is exciting. I've been here almost a lifelong resident of Tyler from here, and just kind of gives me more excitement for what's to come. So,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Appreciate it. And thank you all very much. Is there any other questions? Okay.
All right.
Do we need to?
There was an action,
yeah,
the resolution of support.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve R1.
Motion by Sellers, second by McGee. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. R2?
Yes, Mayor, Council, if you don't mind, we can take R2 and R3 together.
That'd be
We'll have
great.
to, the public hearing will be together, but there will be a separate action
Okay.
for R2 and R3. I'll start with R2, just kind of give you a brief synopsis of what's going on here. Request the City Council conduct a public hearing to consider adopting a resolution authorizing tax-exempt financing by Oglesby Education Facility Corporation for the benefit of Cumberland Academy with no financial obligation to the City of Tyler. We've brought these to you in the past periodically, and Cumberland Academy is attempting to refinance some debt that they have for the acquisition of the former Oak Hill Montessori School campus located at 6720 Oak Hill Boulevard, and refinancing the construction of a new building just completed on the site. The project consists of parking area, a playground, and 4 buildings. These buildings contain administrative offices, classrooms, gymnasium, and a library. There are 2 separate activities in this project: an open enrollment charter school for children in kindergarten up through the 7th grade, and an accredited private pay nonprofit Montessori school for kindergarten children. The maximum amount of the tax-exempt financing is estimated to be about $10 million. Cumberland Academy intends to use tax-exempt bonds to accomplish this financing, and the financing will be issued by Oglesby Education Foundation Corporation. The reason that these will be done by Oglesby is that BTH Bank is making the loan to them. For the bank to buy the bonds, they need to issue in a city that will issue $10 million or less in tax-exempt financing, and that city is Oglesby. So this issue has no obligation to the City of Tyler or the City of Oglesby whatsoever in regard to the financing, in regard to the project financed with the proceeds of this financing. Approval is given by the City of Tyler for a limited purpose to satisfy any requirements of the Texas Education Code and the Internal Revenue Code of 1986. So we will, there's a 3-step process here. A notice of a public hearing must go out. Second is the public hearing must happen, which that is today. And then after the public hearing, council is to approve a resolution to approve this financing. So we'll go to item R3. Very similar. This issue is $6.265 million. It's for Cumberland Academy as well. And it is used for the construction of Cumberland Academy High School and Sports Complex. And once again, this is no obligation to the City of Tyler. And So our request is that you conduct a public hearing on both of these items and take a separate action to approve each of them.
Okay, so at this time, we will recess City Council, and we will go into a public hearing. I do have 3 cards on this item.
I think, can we?
Sure.
Can we vote on R2 and then have discussion on R3? Because I think all our cards are for R, well, all my cards are.
Yeah, that's correct. They're all for R3. So R2, do we do that after we close the public hearing?
You need to see if there's any public
Comments.
input on either one.
On either one first?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then we'll come back in.
Yeah, then we'll come back and vote for R2 and then R3 separately. So I have 3 cards. The first card is Norma Cotton.
I'm just here to answer.
Okay. And then I have the next card, William Frazier. Would you like to come up and speak? Okay.
He's just going to speak on R3, but.
This is a public hearing for R2 and R3,
Okay.
so.
This is for R3. I live 2 houses away from the entrance to Cumberland Academy on 1720 Jeff Davis Drive. And really my concern is the traffic and people parking in our driveway. We get home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there'll be people parked in our driveway where we can't even get into our driveway. I don't know what kind of drop-off and pickup plan they have, but if you were to go over there around 7:45 in the morning or 3:30 in the afternoon, you would see just how bad it is. People park, I know there's a right-of-way on the road, but people are literally turning around in our grass to try to get a better spot to get into the entrance quickly. Another concern is the kids that cross over Paluxy to go home and walk down Jeff Davis. I mean, if you were to see this intersection at the time these kids are trying to cross the road, I'm surprised somebody hasn't been hit or injured. That's really my main concern. I don't know if they have any infrastructure in place for logistics, but it's just, it's a mess for about an hour a day, at 3 o'clock and at 8 in the morning. And I know people that really don't care if people are parking in my driveway. I know it's more of our neighborhood right there next to the road. But it just seems like they don't have anything in place to help remedy the drop-off and pickup. So that's really how I'm here to voice my opinion on. Hopefully they can spend some of that money to build a parking lot or some way to make it flow a little better so they'll quit parking in my yard and in my driveway.
Great.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier.
Is it Dustin Newland? Would you like to speak?
Sorry, I had some
Sure, go ahead.
some notes on here. My name is Dustin Newland. I live on 1708 Jeff Davis, which I'm next house down from Mr. Frazier. Same thing. Our concerns are the fact that there's been a lot of funding put into this school. Obviously, we've seen it grow leaps and bounds over the past couple of years, but it still has one entrance and one exit. There is still one light that it's ran off of. I know that they've changed the timing on some of the lights, but it's not helping the traffic flow for the amount of people that are in this school now. Not only do you have kids that need to be dropped off, you also have teenagers who are driving. I've had my neighbor who put in a brand new sprinkler system, had so many people turn around in his yard, they busted his sprinkler heads. So he got with the city, they dug a ditch, a bar ditch out, so they couldn't turn around in his yard, and went and purchased cross ties to put around the perimeter of his yard just to protect his investment of his sprinkler system. I myself have a yard sign that promotes my church that I attend that was ran over and destroyed. I ask people not to park in my driveway like Mr. Frazier. I've been cussed, I've been flipped off. I had a guy park in my yard under my shade tree. I took a picture of his car. I sent it to the principal. I believe his name was Jeff Hogg. In the email it said, here's a picture of a car that was parked in my yard. I waited on the gentleman to return. He told me his name. He said he had a meeting with you. Could you please let him know that my yard is not a parking lot? He said that he parked there because he didn't want to fight the traffic when school let out. He would rather walk down to my house. When I questioned Mr. Hogg about this, his exact comment was, "It's out of my hands, you will have to contact Tyler PD." But this man had a meeting with the principal. So why didn't he accept responsibility and say, "Yes, sir, I apologize, I will handle this," rather than to turn it over to Tyler PD? Tyler PD has come out to monitor it, but there's not really anything they can do as far as the U-turns that are causing traffic problems, because there's not any no U-turn signs up on the road. They have put up no parking signs on the perimeter, but in that neighborhood on that road, we don't have curb and gutter. So our yards are free, wide open to just do as you please. But I understand also the city of Tyler doesn't have the funding and the traffic set up to monitor that every single day. So these are some concerns. Also the kids walking. It's going to happen. A kid's going to get hit. It happened outside of Robert E. Lee. It's going to happen then. So that's all I got. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Newland. Thank you. I also have a letter, if we're taking comments on R3 down here from.
Sure, if you want
Okay.
to, if you want to read something, sure.
I did have an email from Barbara Bass last night about this. Just, she's pretty unhappy about it and was asking that we would try to continue to seek resolution. I know that we've done that in the past, and we haven't seen any results in the neighborhood and the effect. This letter is from Jane and Ron Hightower, which live right across from Mr. Frazier and Mr. Newland. It says, "We live at 1819 Jeff Davis Drive. Since Cumberland Academy High School opened, my husband and I have had to change our schedule leaving and returning home from work to avoid the heavy traffic that blocks our driveway each morning and afternoon. Every once in a while, a nice person will let us out, but most of the time the driveway is completely blocked and the traffic going across Biloxi is slow to get across. We've also been having problems with people headed south on Biloxi and turning right on Jeff Davis, then doing a U-turn to get back in line to go across school. When they make a U-turn, they drive off into our yard and leave ruts in the bar ditch and in the front yard. And the edge of the roadway is eroding and developing potholes, which I will comment, the street department's been out there to fill multiple times with good response. Just this morning I left for work and 2 people did U-turns out in our front yard as I sat in the driveway. Some people choose to turn around in my neighbor's driveway, even farther west, and it's destroying their driveway as well. Another problem is the right lane on Jeff Davis. There's no curb on Jeff Davis, and the high amount of traffic in the right lane is causing the road to erode and develop potholes. Some people become impatient, and they've actually driven behind our mailbox, across our driveway, and jumped the curb behind the telephone and electric poles at the intersection to head south on Biloxi, and this is not acceptable. We also see students crossing Biloxi and walking on the grass along Biloxi, and cars going 50 to 55 or faster in that area, and it's so dangerous. For example, I saw 2 male students running across Biloxi on the north of Prestige Estates this afternoon on my way home from work. We've written several emails with our concerns to John Nix, and he and his staff have been so helpful in trying to get things addressed quickly. Thank you for your consideration of these matters. And my comment is the neighbors have been asking for an opportunity to say something, because the last couple of times it's just been me up here. And I feel like last time, we accepted a traffic plan and city staff said that it was acceptable, but then the school immediately closed off a whole half of that loop for construction, and I know we've repeatedly asked them to open that back up. And the real difference here is other than just the single entrance, which has to do with a faulty traffic impact study that was originally submitted when they started, is that, like with a TISD campus, is a great example. TISD, when there's going to be traffic issues in the neighborhood, they design it to take care of all the traffic on site to minimize impact to the adjoining neighborhoods. And that's really what we're asking for. We're asking for that to continue to be a priority, and when they come back for these refinances, these are the only opportunities the neighborhood has to speak up for themselves and to ask for something, because the building plans that they submit for construction and stuff are acceptable by standards, but they're not working with the neighborhoods or with traffic. So that is the concern, and we feel like we've been voicing this concern for 2 years. And I don't know when we're going to see resolution, but that's my deal. And this is just for R3. Obviously, R2 doesn't have an issue. It's on an off-street. It has multiple entrances. So,
There any other comments?
I have a couple of comments. R3, we first started talking about tax exempt financing, and I heard the comments and complaints about parking, traffic, etc. I guess my question now is anybody here from Cumberland Academy that can maybe speak to that? As far as the traffic and parking?
Ms. Cotton, would you like to come up and speak?
As far as the traffic, right now, because of the construction, there's a big crane in the way, so we can't go around the building for a few weeks.
Ms. Cotton, I'm sorry to interrupt, but could you please state your name and address for the record?
Norma Cotton, 17715 County Road 223, Arp, Texas.
Thank you. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So right now, because of the construction and having to use the big cranes, we had to cut off the traffic flow for a while until they finish this part of the construction.
but, yeah, go ahead.
And at the beginning, they wouldn't give us an entrance and an exit.
Well, and that is something we've talked about in meetings before. And that
That's
had to do
right.
with the TIA that was originally given to the city for y'all's construction plan, stated that there would be no pedestrian traffic on or off, and that the traffic
You
council.
can't control traffic in and off of a high school campus.
It also
Look at
stated that there would
Lee.
only be 2-car stacking on Biloxi and 2-car stacking on Jeff Davis.
What, isn't TxDOT going to expand the whole road down from Jeff Davis, Biloxi, all the way down to?
But Ms. Cotton, I mean, it's just like TISD, when they've done these new plans, they handle the traffic. They're handling their traffic on their side.
Well,
So
our
that's all
traffic,
the request has ever been, is to request you to handle your pickup and drop off on your side. And I think
we're
that's,
trying, but right now, because of the crane that being there, we can't go around the building like we normally do. There's nothing we can do about that right now.
So when the crane is removed, then there won't be any issues about traffic? Is that what you're
No,
saying?
it'll go back like it was,
And how was that?
that it went all the way around the building.
But you
Right
still-
now, it can't go all the way around the building, and
But-
it kind
but
of
you-
bottlenecks.
But you still have parking and pedestrian issues before the crane was there, right?
Yes.
No, we addressed a lot of that. Now, once students are out and their parents do things, we can't control that, even if we send out letters. And we're not the only school in that area. There's a private school, East Texas Christian Academy, and the White House School. And even on days when we're not in school, traffic out there is horrible.
yes, but the request is that you have your pickup and delivery on your side.
We
And that
do.
is- Well, not according to what the neighbors are just expressing.
Well, I don't know about that part. We sent out letters, we had all that documentation. My point is, right now, with the crane being there and having to block off part of the traffic, there is a traffic problem. There's no doubt about it.
So if they agreed to another separate entrance, have we agreed to that? And have they agreed to build another exit?
No.
Will you agree to build another exit?
Yeah, we tried to get it to begin with.
Okay, so, and that's what we need?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so you're going to commit right now that you're going to do another exit out there, and you're going to have your traffic in and out on your side.
On our
And you're
side.
going to stop, and as a facility, you're going to make sure that you can handle your own parking, like everybody else has to do.
We don't have a problem with it.
Mr. Mayor, before you
Yes.
dismiss her
Sure.
for further questions,
Sure.
I do have a question
Sure,
for Chief
you're
Teller.
welcome.
Chief, I've got a question for you about PD's.
Well, then Chief, would you come up, please?
He's coming.
Okay.
Yeah. Chief, just
Yes, sir.
how do we monitor currently bad driver behavior?
And we go out there now in reference to complaints that we get through Councilman Nix or others. We have, when it first opened up, we saw traffic backed up from Cumberland Academy, the high school, down there at Jeff Davis, all the way to the next light, when it was probably half a mile or more. In reference to actual people standing in, because there's not a long right turn, left turn lane going straight across waiting to get in, once those first 15 or 20 cars get piled up right there on Jeff Davis to go over to the campus and they can't get on, they're allowed by law to sit there through multiple cycles until they have the right to go onto the property. So there's really not a criminal violation there.
Right.
It's not a parking violation. It's stop standing in a roadway, which is legally permissible. So we can't issue citations for that. The right-of-ways on that one, as people turn around, they have no right to damage people's property. And if we get crime, or get an offense on that, or we get the license plates on it, then we can deal with those drivers as we deal with that. They have no right to go onto somebody else's private property, and we can deal with those. But I will tell you that because they can't get enough cars onto the campus, it's going to be a horrific situation there long-term until we have a secondary exit, a secondary light, so that people can go either way. I agree with the neighbors in that area that the design of what's going on in the construction is inhibiting our ability to flow down there. We've sent traffic officers down there. We've issued citations. We had similar issues at the other Cumberland Academy on Copeland, where we had kids that were running across Copeland Road to get picked up at the church. I think that's going to be a long-term problem that we deal with because they don't want to wait in the line. Parents have them go across and get picked up at the church. And finally, the church said no more, and we had to tell people to stop. I think it's going to be one of those things that in the future, as we get ready to go forward, there has to be adequate space on their property to put the number of kids. So if you're talking 1,200, 1,500 kids, there's probably going to be room for 300 or 400 cars at a time to go onto the campus. And if you don't plan for that, we're going to end up in this situation every time.
We're not going to have that many kids on that campus. It's only 1,000.
But at any given time, there's probably several hundred cars lined up on Biloxi to go into Cumberland Academy.
Because there's still traffic to deliver the kids and drop them off, or those that have their own license.
And then it blends in with all the other traffic going to the other schools or the other businesses or people going to work, and it shuts down everything in that area during the hour that we're going on or off campus in the mornings and afternoons.
Gotcha. So my next question is for Ms. Cotton. Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it very much. So what is the length of time that crane's still going to maintain, block the driveway?
I can find out from the construction.
Now, as I drove around the property, you still have access to even that front parking lot area because the contractors have moved a large amount of that construction material. So there's an opportunity to reroute traffic, and I'm not for sure what the answer would be. Is that something that you would consider to do to help further get traffic off the streets and onto your property?
Yes, but the crane's moving right in that area. That's why it's been a problem. We were directing them all the way around, but because of the way they're using the crane, it's right there on the side in that one little area.
Have you by chance held any community meetings or anything to discuss the issues that the neighbors have?
No. I mean, we've met with Mr. Nix before.
Right.
He lives on that road.
I'm sure. Now, I'm not for sure, Mayor and Council, how their plat was approved, whether or not they could put a second entrance into that property. But I will ask, because this is the first time that actually dealt with this, since there's going to be an improvement in that road by TxDOT. So can we require them to put in a second entrance? Well, this is really a two-part question. Did we turn them down first for a second entrance? And then the second is now can we require them to put a second entrance in? I mean, I know that we can ask.
John, do you have a?
Yeah, so,
answer that,
so
Ed?
in the meeting, Ms. Cotton, the last meeting I had with Ms. Cotton and her principal, at that time, we had TxDOT there, and our traffic engineer and City Street staff as well. And TxDOT wants them to have a second entrance. And we have since, in the plans with TxDOT and with the MPO for the widening of Biloxi that's coming, we have asked them to make the right-hand turn lane going north as an offset as long as they possibly can. And I know staff has repeated those requests to TxDOT along the way. When their plat originally got approved, it was a faulty TIA. And we have the documentation showing that staff challenged the TIA. And a TIA is a traffic impact analysis that dictates what anybody who's going to develop any piece of property on a busy street has to do to mitigate the traffic and or impact to the surrounding area. And that's the TIA that stated that at the height of the traffic, there would be no more than 2 to 3 cars stacked on Biloxi heading south, waiting to turn in. And there would be no more than 3 to 4 cars on Jeff Davis stacked, waiting to go in, and that there would be no pedestrian traffic on or off. And I mean, Chief Toller's observation, his guys' observations of, I mean, at 4 o'clock on, and Thursdays are the worst. I have no clue why Thursdays are the worst, but on Thursday, it will back up all the way to Grande, which is a half a mile away. And there are multiple residential streets along the way that if you want to cross and head in the north or south direction, whether you're coming from east or west, you can't do it.
Sure.
And so it wasn't denied. It was, their original plat was submitted in the way, you know, we operate is we allow people to submit their own engineering, and if we need to challenge, we do, and we ask them to mitigate. And basically, their engineers defended their TIA, and that's the reason they got approved for what they got. And at that time, it wasn't, a second entrance wasn't demanded. But TxDOT and our meeting with Mrs. Cotton were near incredulous that they didn't have a second entrance, which once again, I mean, the original plat was approved, so at that time it wasn't required. But I mean, at this point, with the expansion and the growth of the school, which has been exponential, and it's a great looking facility, and is obviously a popular school, but this is not going to get better. And that is the concern, and we feel like we've addressed it, but.
Well, I do have a real major concern, the fact that we get down to council at a time whenever they're looking for an approval on pass-through funding that of this resolution. And then we haven't reached out and maybe even brought the parties together. So
Well, I think that has occurred.
Yes.
That has occurred, Bob.
Well,
It
and
has
We've had
continued
meetings
to
with, as
occur.
far as the school, TxDOT staff. We've encouraged them to work with the neighbors. I mean, this is kind of a deja vu moment as
Yeah.
the last, as far as the improved TIA that then called for the traffic signal adjustments came about because of their request for refinancing or financing for previous loan pieces.
This is not new.
Coming this- yeah.
This
Right.
is not.
No,
new.
I know,
Right.
this happened before.
Right.
And also too, as we take a look at any development across the city, we always take a look, and this council's been very conscious too, of the financial impact that it's had on the development also too. Just want to make council aware of the fact that the last time that we did this, the expense incurred by the school, now I'm not condoning the fact that maybe they didn't adequately address the traffic issue, but it cost the school almost $90,000 plus or minus. So there's a definite impact also to financial impact to the school. So how can we find a way to accomplish what we need to
Well,
accomplish?
I think Ms. Cotton just said that she will do a second entrance, and she will make sure, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but you're going to build a second entrance and make sure that you're holding the traffic to the drop-off and the pickups on your campus.
Can you see about having the light longer?
The light was programmed as per the TIA that y'all had conducted with the last time you were here.
Right, so we've
those
done
findings
that
were
based
done
on
to-
the data
with
that you
that.
submitted. So if you're telling me you're going to put a second entrance in, I think that's what everybody's shaking their head, yes. If you will commit to do that and commit, yes.
Another option is with the county's extension of Oscar Burkett
Right.
for, as they've worked with the White House ISD, there could be a connection that they could consider looking to try to then connect to extend to Oscar Burkett to also then.
That leg's Barbie.
Oh, Barbie.
The one, yeah, they
Barbie
turned
was
Oscar
the Barbie.
Burkett south, but the part that they kept going toward Cumberland Academy is Barbie. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's just work on your commitment to do that second entrance. And you're saying yes, right?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
could we get her to make that statement
Yes, sure.
herself rather
Yes,
than?
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yes,
please,
we
because
will
for the
have a
record.
second
Yes, sir.
entrance.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a time frame?
So my question is because TxDOT's going to be taking part of the front, when do we do that? I mean,
Well, second entrance, I mean, really doesn't need to be on Biloxi. Second entrance needs to be somewhere else. Because the Biloxi, if you do a second entrance just 200 yards down from the entrance you already have, I'm not really sure that accomplishes anything as far as flow through and giving a second entrance.
where would you put the second entrance?
Kind of like the city manager just said, there's a
Your Barbie
connection to.
extension could be, that way you're having traffic being able to flow in and out of there, east and west, beyond just being stuck on Biloxi as the only ingress egress. That's with TISD and all and the other campuses that we work with.
That one
when it comes to-
road, it's so narrow. That one road you have to feed into is so narrow.
As far as feeding for the traffic to flow, to move on and off, because you wouldn't have, part of the problem that I'm hearing, that you're hearing on Jeff Davis is parking. People are parking as well as they're driving on Jeff Davis and trying to, the intent is, the parking, of course, needs to be on campus, and that you're having that flow, then be able to move east and west and get either between Biloxi or down towards Rowan's Quarter, but to be able to kind of move that traffic and on and off there.
There's a housing development.
We can look at other opportunities. I mean, I think you've made a commitment to build a second entrance. I don't necessarily think that we're going to hear that the Biloxi one will work, but there may be some other opportunities.
Mr. Mayor, there was several conversations here.
Yeah,
I
that's
did
right.
not hear her say that she was going to commit to doing the second entrance for the record. I'd like to clarify
I
that.
am committed to doing a second entrance, but it can't be way off of, we have to buy all the land and everything to have a second entrance.
Well, my
the
comment,
opposite direction.
my comment would be, as far as the council is concerned, that you're going to commit to do that, and I would recommend and suggest you get the appropriate engineers to figure out where that's going to be, because we can't do it sitting here as a council.
That's right. We're not going to be able to solve that issue because I'm not familiar with the site plan well enough to
We
know
just need a
the
commitment that
answer.
you're going to do it.
A commitment that, the bigger commitment is just also that you're going to maintain the pickup and delivery on your site. Like everybody else.
We have
Like
tried that. We are, as soon as we get the cranes, we can work on this. We can't.
Well, if you will make the commitment that you will have your pickup and delivery on your site, and that you will work with the TxDOT and our traffic engineer to, within the next 3 months,
If that's what council.
to make a
Yeah.
commitment?
Yeah, 90 days.
It's 90 days?
Yeah.
Okay. If you'll make that commitment, and you just have to state in the record that in the next 90 days, you'll sit down with TxDOT and City of Tyler again, but you're going to make a commitment to have your pickup and delivery on your site, like TISD has to do.
We'll commit to that if we can. The only thing I'm saying is I can't control parents.
Well, yes,
What does
yes,
that mean?
yes,
You'll
I don't
commit
want
to that
to.
if you can.
I said we will send out emails, we'll do everything we did last time to have the parents pick up on the site.
Yeah,
But
but,
I can't control the parents.
well, I mean,
Not
that's,
do or have their kid walk to their business, I can't control that.
I will just have to say I appreciate TISD for working so hard with us to make sure that they're doing that.
But I think that I'm willing to sit down with TxDOT in the city.
I know, but see, the thing is, we've already done that, so I really just want a commitment from you that you
We'll
would.
do another entrance, but I don't know where it's going to be.
We're not saying that we know where it's going to be either, so, but if you'll make that commitment.
I will make that commitment.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so that's,
The only other thing that I'd
Yes.
like to see, Ms. Cotton, is that you engage the homeowners in the community, and only you can set up and facilitate an ongoing dialogue with the citizens. You know, one thing is that they feel confident that you're trying to solve the problem. They'll be more patient with that time frame that you've discussed to help fix the problem. So it's always comes down to open dialogue, and I'm not for sure if that's been the case with the neighbors themselves. And also if your parents understand the sense of urgency about how they're impacting their kids' education, their school, the finances for the school, they're obviously going to have to make that difference up and increase fees and tuition and so on. So when they understand the impact, and only you can communicate that to them. But it's something that I think still lies very heavily in your court to be able to communicate that to the parents. But maintaining a dialogue with the homeowners in the area is very important also too.
We do know some of the homeowners in our area.
I'm curious if this financing is going to increase the students that are going to that school. Well, I heard 1,000.
Well, we don't want more than 1,000.
Okay.
I mean, that's what it's built for, 500 each building. We'll never have more than 1,000 unless we build on, and that's not going to happen.
Okay. Did we get a time?
Yeah,
line
90
commitment?
days.
Okay.
90 days. And so, I guess now we can close the public hearing and then we
Yes, sir.
we
Unless there
vote?
are any other comments.
Are there any other comments?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Ms.
Thanks.
You know, I will say that on doing these bonds, we have always, we have done these many times in the past. And the main thing that I have always been adamant about is that it doesn't show up on the city's balance sheet, and it is no obligation to our taxpayers whatsoever. That we are not liable for this debt and not participating in any fashion. And so we have, normally these are just private indebtedness that come through here that we're not liable for. But, you know, I just think that this has been the most difficult process that I think I've ever seen on working with a school trying to get, making sure that their populations are handled properly on the site. I don't think I've ever experienced this before. Now, since it is a private transaction that we're just reviewing, I mean, I would entertain, I'm going to vote to approve it. I mean, y'all are going to have to make the motions to do it or not, but for the private transaction side of it, I'm not going to stand in the way of doing this. But it is great displeasure that I've experienced on this case, for sure. So, but I'll entertain the motion. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. If we'll gavel the.
Oh, yes, okay. We will gavel the public hearing and resume the city council meeting at this time.
Move to approve R2, please, Mayor.
A motion for R2 by Westbrook, a second by Nix. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. A motion for R3, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve R3 with the commitment from the school to meet the 90-day plan to come up with the second entrance and continue discussions within the community and so on.
Second.
Mayor and council, on this one, I think you can make note of their commitment to do that. I don't know if you can make a condition for the approval of, but you can certainly note they've made that public commitment here this morning.
Then I amend the motion to approve R3.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Westbrook, a second by Moore, and I also
Thank you.
Add not only the 90 days to work on the second entrance, but to also work, Ms. Cotton also agreed to do a much better job at having the drop-off and the pickup on site. Okay. So I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. And now we will move on to M1. Mr. Johnson.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning.
During the first quarter of this fiscal year, the residents living on Townsend and Beverly Avenue and the city of Tyler experienced a collapsed section of 10-inch sanitary sewer line and defective manholes. It is important to note that this aging infrastructure, I'm going to have to back up because I think I am on M2.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry about that. During the first quarter of this fiscal year, the residents living on Buckingham Palace and the city of Tyler experienced a malformed manhole along with wastewater leaving its required containment. This situation was caused by excessive groundwater that led to the failure of soil around the manhole, thereby collapsing the subgrade in the street, producing a dangerous sinkhole in the road. The defective appurtenance constituted an emergency as outlined by the Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 252, which allows Tyler Water Utilities to make emergency repairs. Under Chapter 252, emergency criteria, emergencies that pose a health risk to citizens, property destruction, and harm to the environment allows immediate actions to be conducted accordingly. And based on our current organizational design and sustaining and maintaining current service levels, Tyler Water Utilities was not able to perform the repairs ourselves. So consequently, after evaluating the emergency, Tyler Water Utilities immediately contacted and acquired the services of A.E. Schul to relocate and replace 3 manholes, upgrade 150 linear foot of 8-inch sewer main, and repair the subgrade of the street on Buckingham Palace. The relocation and replacement achieved an upgrade in sewer service in the area and maintained continuity of service without incurring further structural, environmental, or property damage. At this time, we recommend that the City Council ratify these expenditures in the amount of $101,973.92 for the work performed on sanitary sewer, manhole, sewer line, street repair located on Buckingham Palace.
Thank you very much. I have no questions after that lengthy detail, and I appreciate that detail. I actually do. Thank you very much. Very good. Any other questions? Motions?
Move to approve M1.
Second.
Motion by Warren, a second by Nix. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. M2?
M2, during the first quarter, again, of this fiscal year, the residents living on Townsend Avenue and Beverly Avenue and the city of Tyler experienced a collapsed section of a 10-inch sanitary sewer line and defective manholes. It is important to note that this aging infrastructure crosses a creek which flows into the waters of the state, and these manholes and lines have been repaired several times since the construction of 1910. As I stated in the previous request, the sewer influent was leaving its containment due to restricted flow and aging conditions of the infrastructure. The aging and collapsed infrastructure established an emergency based on its location, and bypass pumping was immediately put in place to mitigate further uncleanness. As outlined again in the Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 252, which allows Tyler Water Utilities to make repairs that pose a health risk and safety risk to citizens and property, immediate action was taken. Consequently, after evaluating the emergency, Tyler Water Utilities immediately contacted and again acquired the services of A.E. Schul and replaced the aging 10-inch sewer line with 900 linear feet of 12-inch main while installing 4 manholes. The bypass pumping and upgrade of the sanitary sewer size improved the continuity of service without incurring further environmental and property damage to the area. We recommend that City Council ratify these expenditures in the amount of $139,257.81 for the work performed by A.E. Schultz located on Townsend and Beverly Avenue.
You know, it's amazing how you can make a collapsed sewer line so eloquent in your
Well, I just appreciate you stating that it was the waters of the state of Texas.
Move to approve M2.
Motion by Nix.
His dollar amount was a little
Second,
different. Does
McGee.
that matter?
No, it's just
No?
different work.
Okay. I mean, the dollar amount that's stated in M1.
Yes, it's $139 versus the $101,000, and those costs are wrapped up into.
I know, but the
Right, right.
139,571.81 was just not the number you read, so I was.
Oh, it's not?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Thank you for catching that.
If that's correct, then we'll approve M1.
The second
M2.
number should be
I mean, M2.
$139,000.
Yeah.
Yep, gotcha.
Okay.
And you were able to bypass
Yes, sir. we
quickly,
had the
right?
bypass pump.
Good. All righty. So did I get a motion in a second?
I motion.
For the 139,571.89, 81.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
I'll introduce the next
Oh,
one,
great.
and Paul will give you the details. Council and Honorable Mayor, on page 41 of 146 of the consent decree, the City of Tyler is required to conduct a hydraulic capacity assessment and perform remedial measures. The consent decree work continues with the cleaning and CCTVing of sanitary sewer lines. The capacity remedial measures plan shall also include a schedule for completing the capacity remedial measures identified in the consent decree. The environmental engineering, Paul, Mr. Newhouse, will provide the details for this progression.
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
Council.
Good morning.
What we're looking at doing here in item M3 is to do what we're calling, or what is known as multi-sensor inspection of particularly our large diameter wastewater lines. Thus far, we have been doing, I think you can see this here, we have been doing our inspections and cleaning basin by basin. As we all know, with the consent decree, we have to clean every foot, inspect every foot of our wastewater lines. So we started out here in that orange-looking section. Kind of looks like a Gig and Maggie's thumb there. But it's orange.
No, it doesn't.
I'll have to talk to Holly about that. next time she does a map for me. But we started there in basins 8 and 15. That was year 2017. That's awesome. And in year 2, which was last year, we did basin 13, which is the green. The basin, for the first year, the basins 8 and 15, that's what we're fixing to start our construction on. And I've got my first set of plans for that, by the way. So we are on track as far as that goes. And this year, we are working on what I'm calling phase 3 or group 3, and that is what's shown in the blue. Currently, Taplin Group that we awarded previously is working down in basin 16 down there at the bottom, and then they're going to move to basin 4, then 10, 11, and 12, and what we call unmetered areas, which are outside of these basins, about to the treatment plants. So currently they are about 25,889 feet into it, which is about 9.5% of what they're supposed to be doing, which is about 7.5% of the time. So they're running ahead of schedule. So just as a quick nutshell, we are on track with our schedule for doing this cleaning and TVing. And I'm just giving you some numbers there to kind of give you guys an update. So with the multi-sensor that we're wanting to do, we've been doing, basins at a time, and we're just doing all of the lines. We're doing whatever sizes they are.
Right.
But we want to focus on everything larger than 18 inches and do this multi-sensor and go ahead and do them for the entire city, so that we're not doing some of these large diameter at the end here in about 6 years from now, when we're done with all this inspection work. I guess we're about 5 years now. And the reason we want to do this is because although the number of our SSOs, our sanitary sewer overflows, have been decreasing, we've gone from 111 to 102 down to 82. The number is good. That's kind of what the EPA focuses on. But the volume of these sanitary sewer overflows have increased. And they've increased because we've had some of these failures that have happened to large diameter lines. And the volume, when we have those kind of issues, is tremendous. So we had a huge increase from 2016 to 2017 and of 870%, and that's because one sanitary sewer overflow was over 550,000 gallons, and we had another increase from 2017 to 2018. So we want to inspect all of these right now, as soon as possible. So that's why we're doing this. The multi-sensor is, obviously we want to be able to identify the problems with these troublesome lines sooner. We're going to do multi-sensor as opposed to just a standard CCTV because we want to gather a little bit more data. The multi-sensor is able to tell us the diameter of the pipe relative to what it was when it was new, to give us an idea of the life of that pipe so that we can plan maybe when the next time we're going to inspect it is, possibly predict the life of that so we can maybe budget for replacement or some type of remediation, so on and so forth. Since we've got to clean every square or lineal foot of line, cleaning these large diameter lines is obviously much more expensive than the small diameter lines. So part of that multi-sensor is sonar. So we'll get a picture of what the amount of debris is, maybe below the water level that we can't see, because dewatering these large lines is also very expensive. Right. So we can view them in the standard method. So hopefully this is more expensive to do it this way, but we're going to have more data for future management. Hopefully we'll make up some of that cost on the cleaning side of things because we will be able to adjust our cleaning. The EPA says to clean, they don't tell us how to clean. So we're going to try and manage that appropriately. Before I ask you what our resolution is, I wanted to kind of show you what our schedule is. I think you guys can probably see that on the screen a little bit better than the rest of us can. But we are in the blue line, blue years right there, year number 3. And the total for what Taplin is working on is approximately 274,000 lineal feet of 18-inch and smaller. And we're going to accelerate all of the large diameter into this contract, and that's an additional 215,000. So we'll be almost 93 miles of sewer line inspected this year. So that is going to help, I hope, in eliminating some volumes of SSOs because we'll be able to pick up on some of those problems sooner. So with all that, I want to make a recommendation that the council approve the award of this multi-sensor contract to Red Zone Robotics, Inc. for $1,349,000, $349,512.50. There we go. They were the lower of the two bids, The interesting part about this bid is the other bidder was Ace Pipe Cleaning. They work with Red Zone because they have some of the same equipment, so we're actually going to get both of them working in tandem at the lower price. So hopefully we'll be able to finish this particular work even sooner than we predicted.
Can you go back to the last slide?
The last slide, yes, sir.
So 2017, we did Basin 8.
8 and 15. The orange.
So it's on the map, it's just listed as 8, right?
That 15 was a little thumb. It was too small to
Gotcha.
put the number in there, but yes, sir, that was.
Yeah, and yeah. Okay, so that number's not on there, but that's what I was looking for.
Yes, that's
on the
right.
map.
There's a little, if you look really close, which is hard to do, there's a little bit of delineation.
Okay, so that's really part of downtown.
Yes.
Just south of Gentry. And then Basin 8 is Front Street, out towards the Loop, both on the north and south side of the,
yes, sir.
the deal.
Yes, sir.
And so we've done all that. Basin 13 that's a large basin,
That is,
right?
it was the largest
Basin
that we had, that we've got, and the reason we did it as the second instead of the first is to work through some of the processes. I mean, 8 and 15 are very critical basins as well due to the age.
Definitely.
But then 13 is obviously very critical as well. But being that we saved that for a second year, we were able to work through a few issues and smooth some things out.
Okay, great. All right. Are there any other questions?
Mayor, I move to approve M3.
Motion by Westbrook, a second by McGee. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Great, thank you. Good morning, Lisa. Or Ms. Crossman, excuse me.
Sorry. Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, I'm on the wrong item.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sorry about that. Staff has put together the list for this year's annual Seal Coat program. The package that we bid out this year for 2019 included a base bid with the streets that are currently listed on this on this map, as well as 4 alternates. We did choose the contractor this year using the competitive sealed proposal process rather than the low bid process. We had a committee of 4 staff members who evaluated the proposals, and the selection committee did select Reynolds & Kay as the appropriate contractor to do this work. But once we evaluated the prices that were submitted for the base bid and the 4 alternates, we are recommending that we only do the base bid. This contract, as well as the contract that we'll be discussing in the next item, combined are coming in, the base bids, just under the amount that we have available in our budget for this year. So we are recommending that we execute a contract with Reynolds & Kay in the amount of $566,002.32 for just the base bid for the 2019 Seal Coat program.
Any questions of Ms. Crossman on this?
The Holly Tree Drive is finished now, right?
That's the street that we're currently overlaying. The overlay is complete. We're still monitoring it. We're having issues with the base, with
I've
potholes.
noticed.
Yeah, we're still monitoring it, and I think that we're going to end up having to do some deeper reconstruction of that street.
Because they've like repaired it 2 or 3 times now, and I'm also hearing things from the neighbors that the alignment leading into the Holly Tree part of the drive is not consistent with the street itself. And you and I can discuss this later, but if they're still digging and they're not through, I'm okay with that right now.
That's on last year's.
Right, that was
That
done
was
as
the
part of
last
the
year
20, that was
Yeah.
the 2018 overlay project.
Right.
And again,
Okay,
the
I'm
overlay
sorry.
itself
Okay.
is complete, but we think that we've got some groundwater issues that are causing base failures on that road, and I think that we're going to end up having to do a more of a full reconstruction on that street to install some under drains and take care of the groundwater.
Okay, well, if that's not a part of this,
That's okay.
It is not. I think that we'll be taking care of that within the next, in next fiscal year's budget.
Great, thank you. Any other questions?
Mayor, I move to approve M4.
Motion by Warren,
Second.
second by Moore. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. M5.
And this is a continuation of the seal coat. This is a separate contract because this is a different product that we've been testing out. Last year was the first year that we tried out this Onyx seal coat product. This is a product that uses a slightly smaller rock aggregate on that final course, and it produces a smoother driving surface. So it's a little more appropriate for residential streets. So last year, as I said, was the first year that we tried this product out. We're evaluating it. We're going to be evaluating it over the next several years to see how this product holds up. But right now, it looks like it's doing fairly well. So we are doing another contract this year. Again, staff identified multiple streets with a base bid and several alternates, or at least one alternate. But again, because the final cost came in just under what we have budgeted for the full seal coat program, we are recommending that we award the contract to Missouri Petroleum LLC in the amount of $146,851 for just the base bid.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
A motion by Nix, a second by McGee. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
M6.
There he is. I didn't see
I think that's it, right?
Morning, Mayor, Council.
that. Warren, sir.
It's on the other card, yeah.
This is a request for City Council to consider authorizing the city manager to sign an architectural and design agreement with CT Brandon Corporation for an amount not to exceed $24,000 to develop architectural and engineering plans for Lindsay Park bathroom repurpose project. Now, this is half-cent money that, even though it's less than the $25,000, because it is half-cent, I need to bring it before council to approve the funds. But as far as, it's hard to look at that design that's there, but the bathrooms that are there are 87 models that have, they're, pardon me? Oh, I thought you said something. The original park, 87, the roof's leak, it's another site that just totally needs to be replaced. And so their part is to bring that upgrade. And as council remembers, back in January, we approved the sewer connection from Greenbrier, which is coming to the northern part of the park, the soccer fields, to the restroom. And this will tie in, the agreement is to design it from all the bathrooms across the 346 and put new bathroom over there, take a new bathroom that was donated through the John Souls and see if we can cost effectively remodel that one and then tie into this new sewer line that's coming. They're going to start April 1st. Construction on that part is beginning. So all in all, for that park, it's going to budgeted $383,000, a little almost $384,000 for the project. in conjunction with the sewer project, we're looking at over $600,000 just to get bathrooms in better shape in that park, much needed. And this is, of course, just the Brandon Corporation agreement.
Any questions?
Move to approve M6.
Second.
Motion by Sellers, a second by Moore. I will say this is a commitment that we have ongoing at Lindsay Park for many years in order to get the restrooms upgraded, and I know it's been a process with getting to the point that we have water and sewer out there, and this will be a huge benefit to that park. Instead of working off of a septic system. So this will be a much-needed improvement to a great park. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Great, thank you very much. On to M7.
M7 and M8, Mayor Council, we can
Take together?
Take together.
Okay.
M7 being the donation that we're receiving from East Texas Community Foundation in conjunction with Tyler Area Ambucks for the Southside Park renovation project. As a reminder of that project, it was there was $600,000 in half-cent funds that would go towards the playground equipment, and so with that donation, we actually, with bid on M8, we went to bid number 19025 for the renovations, and the bids came in well under what we were glad to see, I'll put it that way. And for Watson Commercial Construction, $223,162.97 was the bid, lowest bid. One of the other bids, TCMC Commercial, which is currently doing a project with the city, within $42 or $3 somewhere in that area. So the bids were very close, and so we were glad to see some participation with our contractors. But we just like for acceptance of the donation, $223,162.97, and the bid award of $19,025 to Watson Commercial Construction. And again, just some of the maps that we do have around for review or the location. Over 13,000 square feet of playground equipment and the half-court basketball. Just a very unique design that Stephanie and had been working with Councilman Nix, and then just the funding became an issue until we finally, through his work and getting some donations together, just a very unique park that there is a lot of excitement in the air. A lot of different people have reached out to contact Parks Department when they first heard about it, and wheels are spinning as we go.
Yeah, well, I mean, if there's not any on it, I'm obviously extremely invested in this, super excited about it. And I do want to say, just on public record, like, we still have fundraising to do for things that we want to continue to do, such as fencing, to control the play areas and make them more manageable for parents, especially parents that have children with mobility issues, so that they can continue to interact with all their kids. So if you're in the community and you're interested about participating, we still have multiple opportunities for participation in this park. But with that, I'm just super excited and want to start with M7, make a motion to approve M7.
Second.
Motion by Nix, a second by Westbrook. All in favor of M7?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
And then follow up with the award of the contract for construction so that we can get a start date and get going. Move to approve M8.
Second.
Motion by Nix, a second by Warren. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Great work.
Thank you.
I know it's been a long-term project of yours, Councilman Nix, so congratulations on having this project get started.
Yay.
At this time, we're to M9. I will abstain from this issue. Councilman Sellers, Mayor Pro Tem, will handle M9.
Stephanie?
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning. Morning, Stephanie.
So I want to thank Lisa Crossman. She's actually been working on this. The right-of-way permit is what we're here to present today. This is a right-of-way permit for the pizza location downtown to have outdoor seating. And really, the only method by which we have formal approval of that or a formal process for that is to go through the right-of-way permit process. This allows us to really look at indemnity in case there are any accidents or issues on the property or the right-of-way out front, as well as just a provision for us to be able to revoke the permit in the case of some issue or something going on. But we're really excited to have this opportunity. You all have traveled to cities all over the country that have outdoor seating in their downtowns, and so for this to be the first application that we've received, we're excited. And outdoor dining, as you all have seen, activates the downtown space and really makes that an attractive, important place for people to want to stay, relax, and hang out. So we're excited about this. I know the applicants are here, and really what we're asking you to do today is to approve this right-of-way permit and allow the city manager to sign that permit. But I'll be happy to answer any questions as well if you have it.
Any of you have questions?
I don't have a question. I'd love to just make a comment. That, Carlo, I see you back there.
Yeah, the applicants are here and would like to say something.
I've got to say, you've got a very good restaurant. I love it. I'm going to give you a plug. And I also want to say, I think your outdoor seating is going to be a big compliment, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it, if it passes.
Did you wanted to make a statement?
I have a card from Diana, but...
That's my wife, but
okay.
run to the naturalization ceremony. She is also present.
Okay.
Thank you, City Council members. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Carlo D'Angelo. I'm a partner in Sicilian Square LLC. I'm an owner-investor in Pizzeria by Pietro of Tyler. And I concur with you, City Council member. I think that it would enhance the downtown, and I think it would be beneficial. We are a very small restaurant. Depending upon our configuration, we're 36 to 32 seats. So many times on the weekends, we're forced to have to turn away diners. They want to be there. We've enjoyed some very good success early on. We'd like to continue that momentum. I think having the outdoor opportunity to be able to have people sit down, enjoy their dinner, enjoy some drinks out front, in front of the square, is only going to attract more traffic to the square, more revenue to the city. And I thank you for considering our application. I think our site plan speaks for itself. We'll do this tastefully. We'll do this in a way that enhances the beauty of the square, and we appreciate your trust in us and your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Unless you have any questions.
Any questions from Mr.
No, we were there a couple weeks ago, and I think you probably turned away 4 or 5 groups while I was there, which was heartbreaking to see, but I wasn't giving up my seat. The food was great. So. Thank you.
Move to approve M9.
We have a motion to approve M9.
Second.
Second by John Nix.
Oh, no, Bob.
Bob Westbrook, sorry. Couldn't tell which one of you did that. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir,
Thanks,
for
sir.
being here.
Thank you much.
And Mr. Nato?
Okay, so now we're on B1, board appointments.
This morning, Mayor and Council, I'm coming to you asking for you to appoint members to the Historical Preservation Board. The Historical Preservation Board has requested or submitted J.B. Smith and Rebecca Dunn for 2 of the positions. We have 4 positions open, and also Heart of Tyler member Nancy Wren to fill that spot as well. And both terms will expire in 2020.
And so both want to be reappointed, and then there is, did you mention the other person?
Nancy Wren?
Yes, you did? Okay. And so we need to vote to approve reappointing 2 members to 2020 and then accepting Ms. Wren through 2020?
Or just whenever the board appoints someone else.
Okay.
Approved slate presented by clerk.
Motion by Nix.
Second.
Second by McGee. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Now we are on to the consent decree. I'm not the consent decree. Consent items.
Do that again.
Sorry. No.
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. A motion by Westbrook, a second by Moore. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Now the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just a couple of items. Transit has applied for enhanced mobility of seniors and individuals with disability funds through the federal government. These funds will allow Tyler Transit to improve mobility for seniors and individuals with disabilities by removing barriers to transportation service and expanding transportation mobility options. In addition, this funding source allows Tyler Transit to assist private nonprofit groups in meeting the transportation needs of older adults and people with disabilities when the transportation service provided is unavailable, insufficient, or inappropriate to meeting those needs. We had talked earlier about downtown and some of the different programming going on. I also want to remind Council that the second annual Heart Hunt is happening on April 13th. Main Street and Fit City Tyler invite the community to explore downtown in a fun and competitive scavenger hunt. We have teams of 2, 3, or 4 that take place in the downtown Heart Hunt starting at about 9 a.m. on that Saturday, April 13th. And teams have an hour to get the most points by finding hearts around downtown using hints and then uploading photos of themselves onto social media. And then there's typically a big award ceremony afterwards. And then finally, yesterday we had a big celebration out at Tyler Pounds Airport where low-fare carrier Frontier Airlines announced the addition of Tyler, Texas as one of their new cities in the Frontier network with nonstop service from Tyler Pounds Regional Airport to Denver International Airport starting in July. That was an exciting event, and we were very thrilled to have you as council representative and look forward to this as this city has made the investment in the airport with the continuation of the work that had been done on the runways, and you're now seeing the fruits of that labor.
Awesome.
Okay, and so at this time, before we adjourn, we have a tradition of recognizing council members that are leaving. And at this time, John Nix, this is his last meeting. So at this time, I'll give each council member a moment to have some reflection if they'd like. Councilman McGee.
I guess I'll start out since I'm the junior person on the council. I wanted to thank John Nix for his friendship and for his support as I did run my campaign. And we met, I think the first time we actually had a real meeting, we were at some event downtown. And he and we were talking, and his wife walked up, and we were trying to figure out where do we know each other from. And so I think we finally figured it out. And John knows that he's special to me, and I appreciate everything that he's done. And I'll go on record to say his best quality is his wife's story. And he knows that. He knows that. He knows we both married up. That's what we tell each other.
Yes, I know all about that.
You know all about
yes,
that.
Sir.
Right, exactly. Yes. I think we all did. So congratulations, and I wish you well.
Thank you, sir.
John, I've been with you on council now for 5 years, and prior to that on planning and zoning. I do appreciate your friendship. It's been a pleasure working with you. I wish you the best with whatever the future holds, and appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you, Tom.
Well, John, you know, I, over these 4 years I've been on council, have discovered that we each have strengths, and your strength is definitely development. And I remember when I first came on council, you helped me with an issue that I, at that point, didn't know anything about. So I want to thank you for your guidance in development in the city, and appreciate that we all bring strengths to this council, and you certainly do in that area. And thank you for your service, and I've enjoyed your being here for 4 years.
Thank you.
Okay, John, we came on board at the same time, the same day, so we've been here a while. And I just want to say how much I appreciate you being a part of this council. Your knowledge of city government has been tremendous. I've learned a lot from you because I'm kind of like this Councilman Sellers. When I came in, I didn't know anything about planning and zoning. And I realized and understood that you were the guy that they told me to go to. And the times that I called on you to help me with some issues, you were right on time. Your knowledge of planning and zoning. And I tell people you're the learned guy, because when we go to meetings, you always sitting there studying the books and the plans of what we're gonna be doing. So we're gonna miss that. We're gonna miss you. We're gonna miss your expertise. And I'll just say this, Stormy is the city council girl. Okay? So we appreciate you and God bless you and your family. Thank you very much.
John, I'm kind of going to mirror what Councilman Sellers said. We all played our strengths, and I will tell you that you have helped me be a better council member, as prepared as you are when you come into council, and so I thank you for that, and I wish you well.
And I will say that, John, of course, I've been around the entire time that you have been on council. You have always been very involved in neighborhood meetings and discussions on a variety of issues that take place in your district, and that's really true of the representative nature of what we do, that we and you embody that because you have been in those neighborhood meetings and you've heard from the people that live in your area. And then it comes to council and in your actions. And the level of work that you've done on budget cycles, on really just understanding so much of the different departments and how they interact and how the funding works is definitely a strength that I have seen you really grow with, and it has been a great benefit to us as a council. And so I as well wish you well in your future, and just thank you on behalf of all the citizens of the city of Tyler. Thank you very much for the time that you have spent as a council person, a P&Z member, and a couple other committees that you've handled over the years. On behalf of the city of Tyler, thank you very much for your service. And at this time, John, if you'd like to say something.
I'll say something. Why I skip the opportunity? This is, I think I alluded to it in my resignation letter, but, yep, I did accidentally. So anyway, working for this city as a volunteer has been just a huge blessing for me personally, extremely rewarding, even in the rough times. I will consistently champion Tyler just from the standpoint that when I showed up, I had a tool belt and a car, and I think not very much money in the bank account, and started as a trim carpenter here in town, and that was just in 2001. And this city has done so much for me personally, and obviously I met my wife here, and just professionally, and I think this city is one of the best cities in the world to do business in, and I think that the way we support those who are coming up and working hard in our community is a staple and a character trait that we have, and that I pray that we continue as we go forward and as the city goes forward. And I just thank each and every one of you. We've had lots of battles shoulder to shoulder, and thankfully not too many at each other. But we've always been able to come to an agreement, and I think that stands to our personal goals to be unified and for the productive growth of this city and the improvement for everybody in it. So I'm just blessed to have been here. I'm blessed to have the time with each of you. And once again, everybody says it, so I got to say it, that I really am proud that we were able to get Ed and bring Mr. Broussard on. I think you're a rock star city manager, and yeah. Anyway, thank you.
I'll second that as well.
Rockstar City Manager.
Yeah. So great. Thank you very much again for your service, John. Thank you. And so now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.